we were talking earlier, but it's like finding yourself again. It's like going back to your child, like your inner child, or who you were before all of this expectations and social pressure and what they tell you is the right thing, the wrong thing. And then when we started talking and like we were working together, yes, but like when we would start talking and chatting just as friends, me as a newer entrepreneur, because you had been doing it for like a year.
No, 6 months, something like that.
Oh, 6 months. Wow, you hadn't even been doing it for that long. So, but you were like ahead of me in terms of like starting the company. I would take a lot of tips from you because I was just beginning the process. And one thing that stuck out to me from how you were talking about your work, and we related, of course, on both quitting our jobs and everything. But I was struggling at the time with my mental breakdowns every other day because
Sorry, I'm laughing. Not funny, but you know.
No, it's hilarious because I didn't expect it to be so often. And I would constantly have these breakdowns at the beginning. Again, I always thought, even with entrepreneurship, there's the right way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to do this. You have to do this. And I thought I was being pretty open-minded. And I'm like, no, I'm like chill. I'm like, this is fun already. I'm already like getting to work at different hours of the day. I'm already doing it chill.
Mm-hmm.
But talking to Deborah, I was seeing that I was not doing it in a chill way. I was actually kind of doing way too much than what is needed. And I feel like that's something that happens, especially when you're new to something. You think there are rules and you think that there's a way you have to do something. So I feel like that's a good way to judge where you're at, like your amateurness in something, because Shaheen says this all the time, but like the more you get into something, the more you realize there are no rules. Like you actually can respect new ideas, because in the beginning, you can tell someone's a novice when they're like, no, it has to be this. It has to be that. Or like they have all these like constraints mentally. It's because they simplify the idea. But the deeper you get into something, the more complex the idea actually gets. And in the beginning of my journey, I was like, I want to, we've already talked about this, but like, I thought I had to be a coach. I thought I had to get this many sales. I was like, I'm going to get this income by this time. And to do that, I need to work backwards. So I need to like work this many hours. I need to find clients. I need to do this, blah, blah, blah. Like I had all these ideas of what I thought it would be. And turns out now, like fast forward 6 months later, I'm like, I'm a full-time creator. I'm not coaching. I'm not working the way I thought I would, whatever. But anyway, at the time, I would look to you for a lot of inspiration. And there was something that you told me like about your day and how you manage your company that I was like, whoa, that's so weird. I've never heard that before. And you were basically saying that you lead your schedule and your business with intuition. Like it wasn't based on this really strict, rigid schedule and have to do this. You have to pitch brands today. You have to email these people today. You do things based on how you feel it's necessary for your clients or for yourself. So I want to like talk about how that came to you and like what that means.
Of course, at the beginning, I was like you, like to do this and like packed calendar and like, oh, I have to like website and LinkedIn and Instagram, etc. Like, of course, you need process at some point, but it's like the more I was going into that agency and project, the more I realized, oh, it's really tied to what I want, in opposite to the previous year that I had. I was like, the idea came to me just like that. So I'm not going to pretend that I know like where the idea is supposed to be when it doesn't even come from me. I'm a bit of a woohoo. So I believe that it comes from my higher self, from from the universe. I don't know what. I was like, the universe is going to guide me from now on. Like when I was becoming more and more overwhelmed with the to-do list and like what to do and like what was it, like the networking, the pitching. At some point I wanted to force myself to contact certain influencers just because I had to grow. But I was like, it doesn't feel sincere. I want to work with influencers that I have a real connection with. And so I'm not going to message someone just for the sake of it. And so I was like, no, from now on I'm just going to follow my intuition. And same thing when it comes to my to-do list. Warning, I'm not saying that it's like a perfect system. I never forget anything. That's not true. But it's like, at least I listen to my body and my desires. It's really important for me now, where like in opposite to before, to really go with my own flow and respect my flow and what I want to do. And so I started to have way more faith in my brain and my thoughts and my ability to remember things. So I was like, Deborah, you don't need 10 to do this. You know what you need to do, and your mind will remind you what you need to do.
If it's important, you'll know.
Exactly. Exactly. And so when I got rid of my to-do list, I just realized that I was getting the job done. I just used my email inbox as my to-do list, and like just checking the emails and knowing things to do. And by doing that and following my intuition, some ideas came, and I had new ideas for the agencies, for the talents. And that's really how I run my life too now. It's like I don't have any to-do list for my daily life. I mean, I'm not working at the moment. I'm not really working. It's like I really run day by day with what I want to do, my intuition, my groceries, my house chores, everything in my life is just run by my intuition. So
I love that. And I want to hit on what you were saying earlier about you were talking about brand pitching, networking, selling, LinkedIn, all of the above.
mhm.
I laugh at this because these are things that I feel like we force ourselves to do because you're supposed to do it as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. Like you have to put yourself out there. You
Yeah.
have to network with these people that you're questioning. You have to be posting about everything you're doing because if not, no one's going to know. You're not going to grow. You're not going to get to this X, Y, and Z. And these are not things that are inherently bad. It's
Mhm.
not that like you shouldn't ever sell or you shouldn't be posting whatever. It's just that like we think we have to do it all at the same time in the beginning, like right away.
Mhm.
And one hard lesson I'm still learning is that one thing about entrepreneurship is you will have a lot of it. You have access to a lot of ingredients. It
Mhm.
does not mean that everything goes into the cake right now today. And that's something I didn't understand. So I would force myself to network with people that I didn't even think that were that interesting or people that any opportunity came to me, I'm like, yeah, I'd sign me up.
Mhm.
Again, that can be a good thing. In
Yeah.
some situations, putting yourself out there when you're uncomfortable is good. But when I feel like when you're like you and I, where you almost do that too much, you're too used to following the rules, it becomes something that you're forcing yourself to do.
Yeah.
And that becomes unhealthy. And I don't think you should be forcing yourself. It should be like, I know this is good for me and it'll take me out of my comfort zone. So I want to do this
Mhm.
instead of I have to, because if not, I'm going to lose. I feel like if your brain goes like scarcity mindset, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
There will be more. There will be another opportunity. It's okay. And you helped me a lot because I think you were saying that there was a networking event that a networking group that you were a part of,
Yeah.
and you felt like you had to show up and be on like everybody else, and you were like, no, I don't want to, and like everything was fine. You still found ways to network with people who you want to be around and
Yeah.
find influencers you want to work with. And I was like, okay, yeah, I don't have to attend this event that I don't want to go to.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that you mentioned this networking group. It was a group specialized in talent managers. So we're
Okay.
all talent managers from all around the world. And
Mhm.
I was like, I don't know, I don't want to put all of my struggles and like open up in this strangers group. Like I mean, some people like it. That's not something I'm comfortable with. And
Right.
so the funny thing, so I listened to myself and didn't say anything, but someone came to me because of course you have to introduce yourself and just say your agency name and what you do,
Okay.
basically one sentence. And someone came to me and was like, "Hey, I really like what you do. Would you like to have a call?" And I was like, "What? Like that's weird." Just from this sentence, she feels like she wants to connect with me. And this
Mhm.
woman, I feel like she was kind of an angel, like falling from the sky, because she had a
Wow.
call with me. She gave me very valuable advice on my talent manager career that I used all throughout the year that I've been the talent manager. And she also shared a tool to help me pitch brands and everything that I've used. And I've actually made money off of it thanks to that. And this
Wow.
woman just had this one call with me, and then we probably message like 2 or 3 times on LinkedIn when she has an accomplishment or something, and that's it.
Okay.
And I quit this group because it was a paying like
Oh, a
monthly,
subscription. You had to
yeah,
pay monthly.
subscription.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't need it anymore, but I got what I needed from that, and I didn't force myself to do more than that.
Yeah.
So that's an example that sometimes you follow your intuition and it works out. You don't need to force yourself.
Right.
Or tell
Right,
people.
like whatever's coming for you is already coming for you. You don't need to force it. Like if you're meant to be around someone or y'all are meant to network or whatever, they will find their way to you.
Yeah.
Whether you didn't have to be posting every day or attending every single event for her to reach out to you. She just did because I think it was meant to be.
Mhm.
It sounds so foreign when you're working for yourself because I was thinking about this the other day. Like everything you do, you feel like it's a direct output of how much you put in.
Mhm.
Like if I want to get this output, I have to put in more. Like if
Mhm.
I put in more, I'm going to get out more. And
Yeah.
that's not always necessarily the case. You don't
No,
always
that's
have to work
mhm.
10 times harder to get 10 times results. Like, yes, and there are things you're going to have to work harder at. You're going to have to put in more effort, but generally, like, you have the answers. Like, you know what you like, you know what you don't like. And one thing you reminded me of this, of like, you don't have to be this terrible manager to yourself. Like, you don't have to. I think you said it perfectly. You were like, oh no, you said it about yourself, but you were saying like, I'm the worst manager I've
Yeah.
ever had.
Yeah.
Like,
At the
we
beginning,
yeah, we would punish ourselves. You're not allowed to do this. You have to work this many hours. Like, we were micromanaging our own selves. And it's like, I think there becomes this like obsession with, okay, I don't have the corporate, managers and annoying people to like ruin how I want to work and my flow. I can do things the way I want to. But we have to admit that we're trained by those people. Like, we have to understand that all we know of like how work looks like is what we learned. You have to like, you need to trust yourself, but there's some things that you need to shed before you go all the way in. Like, one for me was like, I need to shed this idea of I have to do things I don't want to do. Like, I need to get rid of that mentality, because my whole life I was doing things I don't want to do.
yeah.
So all I know is how to do things I don't want to do. And so when it comes to doing things I want to do, I'm not good at that. I had to learn that. And like, I took a vacation, quote unquote, a vacation. And I was having another mental breakdown about my business and how it's going nowhere and I'm not getting customers and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I remember talking to Deborah one day while I was talking about this so-called vacation, because I was on vacation while I was talking to her. And she was just, I was like, yeah, let me let me add that to my schedule. Or I said something like that. She was like, what schedule? Why do you have a schedule during your vacation? And I'm like, well, it's only like little things. I'm only adding a few things in there. And so she's just like, I don't know what kind of vacation you take, but the vacation I have, there's no schedule, point blank, period. And I realized that my vacation was just me eliminating a few things that I didn't like in the day. And I would keep everything else. And it was like, you really need to allow yourself to like fully rest. And that was still a foreign concept, because I was still so used to, when you're on vacation in corporate, you check in, or you do this or you do that, a little bit of here and there. I wasn't used to doing it on my own. And then I think another point is that because it's tied to your income, you don't ever feel like you can actually rest. Like, it feels like when you come back from vacation in corporate, you're still getting the same check. Like, PTO, you're still getting the same check. But like, when you're coming back to your own work, you may or may not, like, your slow period might be a slow period financially. So it's like another pressure on why you have to be this perfect. You have to do everything. You can't miss an opportunity because the money will stop. The money's going to run out, Then that's the scarcity mindset that creeps in. I think that's where it comes from, honestly.
Yeah, it reminds me of a TikTok I saw the other day. I don't remember the exact context, but it was like, when you start something, think of the energy you're starting it with. So you want to start, you're like, oh, I need to do this. Oh yeah, but what the energy does it come from? Does it come from a scarcity mindset? Does it come from joy and excitement? It's totally different energies. So I'm very like careful about that now, but I want to be more like,
Yeah. And I think when you go with your intuition, that's usually a calm,
yeah,
like, it's like a movement. It's like a gesture, like smooth. But then the anxiety version is like, you have to. Oh my
yeah.
God, what if like it's like this annoying
The worst
voice?
matter is that you can be for yourself. I remember I was timing myself because I was like, you're not working enough. You're only working 4 hours a day. You need to work 7 hours like you used to do in corporate, even more. I used to work like probably 10 hours sometimes. And so I used to time myself, but I never used to do that when I worked for someone else. So why would I do that for myself? It's horrible. So
Wow. Yeah, I know. It is horrible. I don't know where that comes from, but you know what's so funny though? It's like, literally the point of entrepreneurship is for us to do things the way we want. And like, that completely goes out of the door. Like, the point, like, that's literally the point. Like, you're not supposed to come into your own life and copy and paste corporate, but with a little splash, you're supposed to do it the way you want. And I think that's what's so ironic, because we come into our own business with so many rules. All we're doing is we're recreating what we know all over again. We're recreating corporate, but in our own flavor. But this time it's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the new corporate. And we're making it like, oh, this entrepreneur says I have to do this, I have to do that.
yeah.
Or this entrepreneur does their work this way, I have to do that. But you really can't look to every single example, because you're trying to create what is for you. And that takes a lot of effort, trial and error with your desires, not other people's desires, your own desires. And then if someone else's work like resonates with you, then maybe that's your intuition saying, oh, let's look into that. But
Exactly.
you shouldn't feel like everybody else's, how they do things is your baseline.
As you were talking, I'm thinking like we didn't trust or we don't trust ourselves enough. That's why we need to like compensate with like those tools and the things that we are supposed to do. I used to read every entrepreneur's like books and like recommendations and value
Spreadsheets.
yeah, but it's like your entrepreneur journey is yours and like nobody else has a similar one. It comes from your ideas, your history, like it's just yourself. It's so unique, and so we have to trust ourselves way, way more. And I feel like the moments where I trusted myself, or the moments where I had the most beautiful experiences with my agency. I mean, contacting you and like, and then a few
Yeah.
months later having this Europe trip with you is like it's crazy, and it's all because I trusted my intuition and my desires. So.